Hello again. It's been quite a while since I posted the last video. I'm just going to post this video because this is a bit of an update on the Kadee couplings. There's been a couple of questions from Ray and Atlanta Man on YouTube about fitting couplings to British outline stock, because both of their questions are quite valid really. There's very little videos out there about doing it on some of the stock that you see, some of the British stock you see. Kadee Coupling is an American company and it's designed for American stock, not readily fittable to a lot of British stock, but there are ways of doing it. So this is a video. It's going to show you hopefully some tips, some hints, and maybe some ways of fitting bits and pieces to British stock, especially the older stuff. So what we'll do is we start with the one of the older types of coupling that you may see, and my way of converting them, how I've done it. Now this isn't by any means the only way, but I found this the easiest way of doing them. So we've got over in the corner here, we've got a mainline wagon. I've taken it out of the box. So a mainline wagon, just a single plank wagon. Okay, very similar to this one here. Okay, so this is a mainline wagon, not the actual wagon, but the actual couplings themselves. There's a reason behind me having more than one wagon, and you'll see why as we go. So, first things first, this is fitted with these tension lock couplings, as you can see. So, first things first, easy job. First, remove the coupling off the front. Unfortunately, these screws are not long enough for the job we need, so put them to one side for safekeeping, and there we got coupling off. Now you can see on this wagon that I've actually cut this end off. Okay, so simple process. Again, this voids any warranties that you've got. Mind you, these wagons are quite old, so they probably won't have any warranty on them. So very simple thing, cut that end off using a good razor saw, very fine saw. Okay, so cut that end off so it's flush with the bottom of the wagon. Flush. You can tidy that up if you wish. Okay, then what you need is a Kadee coupling. So the coupling that I've been using for these is called a number 5. Now apparently they sell loads of these in America. So a number 5 coupling, and it's almost like a complete coupling all in one. So you get in the packet, you get enough bits and pieces to make 4 couplings, and it builds up from bottom and the top bits of plastic. You've got a self-centering spring, and the actual coupling itself. So you make it all up, follow the instructions. It's a simple process. I'm not going to go through that because it is just following the instructions really. Once you're finished, it comes out like this. So self-centering spring, so it holds it in the middle. Trip pin and your actual coupling itself. That's handy. So we've got a complete unit like that. So to fit it to the wagon, very easy. So these one that we prepared earlier. So you've got a hole left over from where the old tension lock coupling was. That's handy because that's the center of the coupling. So all you need to do is widen that hole out a little bit with a drill. So get a suitable size drill, widen that hole out a little bit, and then you can simply screw your new coupling on. So get your suitable screw. Now screws I've used for this, I've got these screws 2x3/8. okay, so these are screws that I've had lying around for a while, which doesn't really help you because you've not all got them packets. This is the screws that come with Pico point motor bases. So the screws that come with the kits that screw point bases to layouts. So they're quite handy because they're exactly the same size as well. So a little plastic bag of them. So if you've got any of them left over, again, really helpful. So just widen out the hole in the bottom of the truck, widen it out just enough for the screw, so probably a 1 or 2 mil drill bit in there just to widen it out. Then screw the whole box to the bottom of the truck. Make sure it's tight, don't over tighten it because you're only going into plastic, and make sure that it's centralised as well. That's quite important. Okay, you could, if you wanted to, put a dab of glue on there to hold it in place if you so wished. Then get your height gauge, which we saw in the other video, and you can see, look at that, look, isn't that fantastic? So it's spot on the right height for the Kadee without any adjustment or any work needed. Isn't that good? Exactly the right height. So that is probably one of the easiest conversions to do, and that works for mainline. So the mainline trucks works for Bachmann as well. So this is the older style Bachmann, and it also works for some of the older Hornby ones as well. So Hornby ones as well. So chop them off, put them together. Simple process. So that's one of the easier ones. One of the wagons that I have had trouble with is these type. So this type of coupling here that pull apart like that, these I've had trouble with converting these. I have done one, but it didn't go, well, it works, but it's not the neatest conversion I've ever seen. I think if you chopped that whole bottom section off and again fitted one of the number 5s on the bottom there, that would probably work, because essentially the buffer beam is really going to be about the same sort of height as a Kadee coupling. But I've yet to try it on one of them. What I have done is I've fitted one to a British Rail Lomac wagon. So this is a Hornby Lomac wagon that had that type of coupling on. Now you can see what I mean by not being very neat. So essentially what I did is I chopped off the whole of that coupling underneath, the whole of that section, put some plastic card on there to the right height, and then glued a coupling box to the bottom of it. The problem is these coupling boxes, they don't accept many glues all that well. The only thing that I could do was epoxy it on there. Super glue didn't work, it was too brittle, it just fell off. Plastic glue, so the solvent glue that comes with most Airfix kits, model airplanes and stuff like that, didn't melt it at all. Didn't have enough solvent in it to melt this plastic. So the only thing I did in the end was 2-part epoxy resin on there, but it has worked. I've used a shorter coupling on there. So when I say a shorter coupling, what we have is we have a choice of couplings. We have a 17, an 18, and 19, and there's also a 20 as well, and that relates to the length of the coupling itself. So on the right hand side we've got a number 17, and on the left hand side, that you can see different length, that is a number 19, and there is a 20 which is slightly longer still. And you do need these different lengths for different size wagons, because the actual position, so the actual position of this box varies on different wagons. You can see that's quite a long one on there, whereas something like this, you can see that the actual box is slightly further out. So you need different size ones. So that's how I dealt with that one. And again, it does work. It is the coupling is at the right height, but it's not the neatest of conversions. We're going to have to work on something a bit better on them. One thing that I am working on, or sorry, my cousin is working on, is a 3D printed box, NEM socket box, coupling box. That will be quite handy, so I'm waiting for them to turn up, and that will make the job a lot easier. Couple of things. One of the things that you will find when you've got your Kadees in there are various different heights of the actual couplings themselves, and they do vary quite a lot some of them are easier to fix than others. Now you can see there we've got a difference in the coupling height. This is a lot higher than the actual coupling itself, than we need it to be. So on this one, simple process I used on this one is removed the coupling itself. So slide a screwdriver underneath, slide it up, that comes out, and then using bits of cardboard, bits of card from your packet, use them as shims to space the actual coupling out. So all I did, put a shim of cardboard on there, put your coupling back in, so that will hold it at a different height. So you can see there, just by adding a little strip of cardboard, that's made that a lot lower. Okay. One of the other things that you can do as well, so that's one way of altering the height of them. One of the other things you can do, so that was a Bachmann cattle truck. This is a Hornby horse box. So one of the other things you can do is by using cardboard in the actual coupling box itself. So that one we just saw was too high, this one's too low. So you can see we've got a fair bit of play. Let's get it in front of the camera. A fair bit of play in the coupling box itself. Now that happens on a great deal of wagons that I've tested. You can have two different wagons from the same manufacturer and they be at different heights and have different degree of movement in there. So that one was too low, so to get the height up, all we'll do is we'll add a shim of cardboard, a shim of paper into the coupling box itself. So rest your Kadee in there, slide the bit of paper in there, and then that gets rid of that play in there, gets rid of that slop in the actual coupling, and you can see that actually looks a lot better, that fits a lot better. Okay. I've seen other people on YouTube, they've used plastic card in there. Plastic card will be great, does exactly the same job, but you'll need various thicknesses of plastic card obviously. So you'll need quite thin, 0.3 of a mil up to 1mm. Nothing wrong with that. Me personally, bit of card, it's cheap and easy, does exactly the same job. I haven't had any bits fall out, seems to work quite well. So you can see most of the wagons with the coupling boxes, they are easy to fit, but they are in different heights, different sizes, but they all tend to fit quite well. Again, this one's a Bachmann wagon. I don't think I had to do much to this one, it fitted quite well, all seem to go together quite well, couplings at a nice height. There are a couple that we did struggle with. So this is an Hornby, it's called a 14XX, so 14, and then obviously the number afterwards denotes the loco number, so they call it a 14XX. This has got the old style Hornby couplings on it, so similar to what we saw on that other wagon with the pull out connectors, so very similar to this. Okay, I've replaced them and put some thinner ones on. Now that is quite a substantial bit in there, that all forms part of the chassis. Changing that front and rear is not going to be an easy job. That would entail quite a bit of cutting and shutting, and to be honest, this wagon, so this particular loco was permanently attached to an auto trailer, so they worked as a push-pull unit, and on my layout they are always together, so there is no real need to uncouple them. So hence why we're still using a tension coupling on there, because it'll only run with the wagon on this side, hence why there's not one on that end. So that one kind of worked in my favour. I haven't managed to convert any of them yet, we're working on it. This is an off-the-shelf Bachmann one, so this worked really well. So the couplings, quite long ones in there, So you can see we're using, I think these are 19s in here, so quite a long coupling in there, so it clears the hook at the back and the hook and the pipe work at the front. Okay, but that one, straightforward fit, absolutely perfect height on there. Unlike another loco from Bachmann, so that previous one was a class 56XX, this is a 45XX. So this one I had to do fairly major surgery on. This one I needed, on here I needed 20, so number 20 couplings to give it enough clearance on the front hook and the rear hook. So these are the longest couplings I could get. I had to put some cardboard in the top, so again my little card fillets in the top. I also had to slightly bend the coupling down as well to get it to the right height. These really were, this was the hardest one I've had to convert. So what I had to do, gently heat up this part of the coupling, very gently heat it up. I just use the heat from a light bulb, so gently heat that up and bend it, just bend it very slightly to get it at the right height. And that was the only way I could get that one to work. But work it does, but it's not the easiest of conversions. Didn't work all that well. So hopefully that's covered most of the wagons that we're likely to see in England. Most of the different types of wagons we'll see. I know there are a couple more out there, but for me that's kind of covered what I needed. Obviously I've got the shorter loco, this one here. I've still got to sort out something with that one, but we'll worry about that later. So a couple of things before we sign off. The shorter wagons, one thing to be aware of, if you've got an open wagon, quite a shallow wagon, when you're screwing the coupling in, make sure you keep an eye on the screw depth. Obviously you don't want to poke the screw through the top. Okay, if you've got a box wagon like this, don't need to worry about it because the screw will go through the bottom, come up inside, so it doesn't really matter on them ones. So just be careful of that. So you may need to shorten the screws slightly. One other thing as well, the actual coupling itself, you may or may not be aware. So can you see on the bottom there, can you see that the trip pin hits the bottom of my gauge? So it's supposed to go the other side of the gauge. Not too much of a problem because they are adjustable. Kadee sell a tool. I have seen a Kadee tool. Now I'm not sure about the validity of the tool because it was bought off eBay and it only cost a couple of quid. So I'm not sure whether it was a genuine Kadee one or not. I'm not going to comment on that. But it was quite a big tool. It was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. And if you think that these couplings aren't the biggest of things, they're quite a small coupling. So I actually bought my own tool. It wasn't designed for these couplings at all, and it looks like this. So I got this from a company called Squires. So Squires Tools. I bought this actual pair of pliers from them. Okay, so this works quite well. It wasn't cheap. It's called a Klein forming tool. I think it's called a Klein forming tool. So as you can see, you've got a round bit there and a horseshoe shaped bit there. I've modified it slightly, so I don't know if you can see there's some grinding marks on there. So I've actually filed that down even further so it goes in, so you can actually adjust the couplings themselves. So you literally just put it in there. Doesn't need a lot of pressure, just a tiny amount of pressure on there, so you can adjust it to the right height. So you can see that now clears that there. Now that is vital. That is a really important tool, because once you set all this up, you still need to adjust the trip pin so it runs on your magnet. Okay, so just be aware of that. It's just saying a useful tool. Like I say, they sell them at Squires. Quite a handy tool. The Kadee one does work. I have tried it, but the one I saw, I'm not too sure about. So hopefully that has been of some use to you. Really, I hope that's given you a bit of an insight into my findings of Kadees, and I hope that if you are trying them, you persevere with them, because I'm actually a great lover of them now. If anybody's tried to uncouple tension lock couplings on a layout, it's a real big faff. The beauty with these is once these are coupled, all you need to do is just lift the loco up and pull it apart. If you've ever tried doing that with tension lock ones, it is awkward. You end up pulling half the wagons off the track, and once they're coupled, it becomes a real nuisance. So me personally, I quite enjoy. I quite like working with them, and it does look good. If you get it right on the layout, it does look really good. The whole hands-free ability to uncouple them, and then once they're uncoupled, push the wagons along. It does work really well. I thoroughly recommend, if you can, have a persevere with them. Try them out, get yourself a couple. It's quite expensive if you've got a lot of wagons to convert them all. I can appreciate it can be quite expensive, but I've kind of done mine as I've gone along. I've had a little bit of an experiment with them, and I thoroughly enjoy using them. I think they're a great tool for model railways. So hopefully this has been of use to you, and hopefully it won't be too much longer before I post another video for you. Take care. Bye bye.